So let's get right into it. What happens when a country's economy is absolutely firing on all cylinders, but the world around it has completely changed the rules of the game? Today, we're going to break down India's ambitious new economic strategy, and it comes straight from the 2025-26 Economic Survey. Think of it as a playbook for navigating a world that's more uncertain and, frankly, more competitive than ever before. To really get what's going on with India's new direction, we first have to understand this central puzzle that the survey lays out, and it's a real head-scratcher they call the success paradox. So what the survey is basically saying is this. India is having its best economic run in decades, but the global system just isn't playing along anymore. You know, that old idea that if you just get your own house in order, the world will reward you? Well, that rule book seems to have been thrown out the window. Okay, let's break that down. On one hand, you've got this booming economy growing at over 7%. And get this, major credit agencies are upgrading India's rating for the first time in almost 2 decades. But then, on the other hand, its currency is kind of punching below its weight, and it's getting hit with these surprise tariffs out of nowhere. So what gives? Why isn't having a strong economy enough anymore?
Well, the answer, it all comes down to a massive shift in how the world operates. The global game has totally new rules, and they're literally being written as we speak. And the key concept you need to know here is economic statecraft. Now, this isn't some brand new idea. I mean, Kautilya's Arthashastra was basically a masterclass in this stuff, but it's making a huge comeback. It's when countries use their economic tools, we're talking trade, finance, tech, not just to grow, but as instruments of foreign policy and national security. So this new era, it's defined by a few big things. You've got rising protectionism, right? Trade wars. It's a world where trade policy is all about security, not just about being efficient anymore. We're seeing the weaponization of supply chains for literally everything from energy to microchips. And then there's this intense strategic competition over future tech. I'm talking AI, semiconductors, you name it. In this new world, being economically connected to another country, well, that's not just a source of stability anymore. Now it's seen as a major vulnerability. So with this new reality, the Economic Survey is basically arguing that India's entire strategic mindset has to change. Radically. The old goals just don't cut it. You see, for years, the main goal was something called strategic resilience. Building an economy that's tough enough to handle global crises, to absorb those big external shocks. But in a world where everyone's playing hardball with their economies, just playing defense, just being able to take a punch, well, that's just not going to work anymore. So the survey proposes this huge shift from strategic resilience to something they're calling strategic indispensability. And this is a big deal. The goal isn't just to absorb shocks anymore. The goal is to become a source of value for other countries. It's a shift from just making sure you have diverse suppliers to actually shaping and anchoring those global connections yourself. The end game here? To become a node in the global system that other countries absolutely cannot bypass. You become essential. Okay, so that's the big idea. But how on earth does a nation of 1.45 billion people actually pull this off? Well, the survey lays out a 3-part blueprint for building this indispensable nation. The whole strategy really rests on 3 core pillars. First, re-engineer the entire economy. Second, reimagine the role of the state itself. And third, go out and dominate the future frontiers of technology. All right, let's talk about pillar number 1, re-engineering the economy. The thinking here is that while India's services sector has been a total powerhouse, historically, it's been the nations with manufacturing muscle that have had real, durable currency stability and strategic weight in the world. So the vision here is to transform India into this high-productivity manufacturing hub, one that's plugged deep into global value chains. We're not just talking about assembling things anymore. It's about moving up the ladder to making components, then systems, and eventually doing the high-level design work. The goal is to become a critical, almost irreplaceable link in the world's supply chains. Okay, on to pillar 2, reimagining the state. This one requires a complete transformation in how the government operates. The government's role can't just be about regulation or providing services anymore. The survey calls for what it terms an entrepreneurial state, which is a state that acts like a strategist, a coordinator, a risk taker, and a capability builder, especially when it comes to these critical new sectors. And that brings us to the 3rd pillar, dominating future frontiers. And this is all about having a laser focus on what's next. I mean, let's be real. You don't become indispensable by focusing on the industries of the past. The survey points to the key battlegrounds for global influence.
We're talking AI, semiconductors, green hydrogen, and a whole host of other advanced technologies. This is where India has to build its national capacity and do it with a real mission-oriented focus. So, when you put it all together, re-engineering the economy, reimagining the state, this whole national project is, well, it's monumental. And the survey really frames this challenge with this sense of incredible, almost breathtaking urgency. The sheer scale and speed of what's needed is captured in this one really powerful line from the survey. India must run a marathon as if it were a sprint. Think about that. There's just no time to waste. All these different stages, building self-reliance, then resilience, then indispensability, they all have to happen at the same time because the world is just changing that fast. And, that really leaves us with the ultimate question, doesn't it? The economic survey has laid out this incredibly bold, ambitious, and you could argue absolutely necessary path for India in this fractured new world. But can a nation of 1.45 billion people really retool its entire economy, reimagine its government, and reshape its role in the world all at the same time? The success of this grand strategy really hinges on whether this marathon can in fact be run at the pace of a sprint.